I wanted to make a video about a procedure that I've been doing for a little bit now that helps with finding noises and also actually vibrations, and how I do it by incorporating the oscilloscope. So I'm not going to show any type of repairs. It's just more of like a tip type video of how to, or just another procedure of tooling to have in your arsenal to help you in some of those difficult situations. Um, and this is just, it's nothing crazy, nothing, you know, expensive. Once you have a scope, you can just basically make this happen the way that I ended up doing so. It just all started just like with everything else. When you have an issue, you try to come up with just a better path, or uh, start thinking of outside the box, or how can you improve something. So I had a older BMW. It was a 740, a 2001, I believe. Customer was complaining about suspension noise, and I I'm not a fan of suspension noises, just because if it's not a broken control arm that's hanging on the floor, then sometimes it can be hard to isolate a noise and pinpoint exactly what it's going to be. And of course, you have your common, repetitive, known issues, like those they have thrust arm issues or ball joints or stuff like that. So you can always try to get lucky, but I borrowed my friend's chassis ears, and they were the wireless type, and I put them on both sides of the front suspension, lower control arms, I think thrust arms, and possibly somewhere on the knuckle, and then proceeded to drive. Now that particular one had four chassis ears. I think you can add two more and have up to six channels on the receiver deal. And so I had my friend sit in the passenger seat while I drove. I had them hooked up, zipped up out the way, and we went driving. And you can definitely make the noise happen going over bumps, and it it was hard to, or it took a minute to try to isolate it, because the problem with chassis ears and that setup, which works fine, it's a good tool. It definitely can pinpoint you to the right direction. But the thing um, that I wanted to try to probably expand on or elaborate was, when you're using that, you're using one channel at a time. You can only put the dial knob on one chassis ear at a time, go over a bump, hope that makes the noise, and hope that you're on the right channel. If not, you got to turn around, find the bump again, switch your channel, and if you got six channels going, you got to try to hope that you're on the right one out of the six when the noise happens, if it happens, and try to see which one's the loudest. It has like a little volume um, meter thing on it also, for the sensitivity or how loud the noise is occurring on that chassis ear. So long story short, just being that uses the scope so much nowadays, and you're so used to seeing so much graphed out, sort of say, and multiple things, and try to visualize what's going on when gathering data. I just started playing around with it. I actually took his unit home that night, and I took it apart to try to see if I can tap into the anything to try to get that signal, sort of say, to come up on the scope. And again, like I said, it was on the wireless unit, and on the unit itself, I couldn't find an area to tap into like I thought I might be able to. But what I was able to, because prior to that, I was able to pick up a signal on the scope from the chassis um, on each one, and I could put that on the channel. And so then that's when I said I wanted to try to get that same signal at the main unit. But being that it's a wireless one, I couldn't do a hard wire tap in type of deal. So what I decided to do was order a set of the original versions, the ones that are not wireless, because it's the clamp, basically the microphone, and it has a hard wire, I don't know, 16-foot something lead that you can bring into the car that you're able to connect to the main receiver hardwire. And so on that piece is where I know that I can make a connection with the scope, because that's how I did it with the wireless unit. So it's done on the jack portion of it. And if you take a look at this, or even if you take a look at your cell phone jacks or whatever, it's got these kind of rings or dividers, and they all have this back portion, which I'm just simply going to call it a ground, and then they'll have portions above it, and on this one you have two sections with one ring, so one divider. And this is what would be, and to make it into layman's term, or terms that might be easier to understand, being that we're used to working with, say, power and ground, or a signal and a reference, stuff like that. So this would be kind of like the signal, and this would be the kind of like the ground. And this, in the audio world, I guess it would be considered a mono type, which would be only one speaker output, or like a headphone would be one side. If you had two rings and it would be three sections, that would be like a dual. So two speakers, or say left and right, and then the ground. And then if you've got three rings or dividers, then you have four sections, the ground, left, right, and that additional section is actually a microphone, which if you look on your, like I said, some of your cell phone headphone jacks or whatever, if you've got four sections or three rings, that's your both headphones, your microphone, and what I'm going to call the ground. So that's where I started poking around, and it's a simple connection once you have your scope. So take your any channel, your power ground type of lead, I'm keep calling on that, don't scald me, and so you want to just simply get on those with, of course I'm using alligator clips, and that's your connection. And then you just get on the scope, and I typically almost always use a 5-second screen, and for this I bring it down a lot for sensitivity, down to start playing around. I'm at 100 millivolts, and here's the clamp / microphone deal I'm calling, which goes on anything you want to clamp, your control arms or whatever. So I'm simply just putting it there. This is a metal workbench, and you can see when I clamped it on there, And just to show you, and I'll let the waveform complete and go to the next one. Okay, so I'm simply just going to tap here, and it picks up the signal that it generates. And the harder, obviously, the bigger the signal, or say the closer this is to the source, the higher the strength is, just like that volume indicator on the wireless unit. So I'm being right next to it is like that. Now, to show you, also, see if I can. See, it picks that up. Again, like I said, this is a metal workbench, so it's to kind of demonstrate, you know, suspension or things that are connected. It's going to be, the level is lower here, but it still picks it up. Even it's as sensitive as if I or drop it and roll. Well, not on there. So now with that, like I said, we have now 4 channels, you know, on this unit, where you can have 4 of these traces going on, and you can split them. And if you want to put, you know, different microphones, clamps, whatever you call them, on different areas of suspension to try to isolate it, just like you normally would with them. So say you had a noise in your front right area, you put one here, put one here, put one here, and then go drive, and then no different than what you would with the regular unit. But this way, you're running all simultaneously. You can do it by yourself, have it be recording, graphing, whatever you want to call it, and then not hope that you're on the right channel at that right time, that the suspension or whatever you're measuring does act up and does make the noise. You're graphing and capturing everything all simultaneously, all at once, up to 4 microphones with this unit at one time. I thought was pretty cool, time saving, and also, like I said, the best thing about it is it's all graphed out and it's 4 things at once, and obviously you keep track of which one you have where, you match it up, and you know where your loudest noise is occurring. One thing I did forget to mention when making the connections, obviously you can go that way that I did it. You bring this all into the car and hook them up. One way that I found to make it kind of easier is getting just these test leads with the round plugs, and then put them in here. So, and so I keep this one on the ground portion, quote unquote, and then this one I'll just connect with a lead to the scope lead, and then that way I know I've got a secure connection and not really have to worry about it. So that just makes it easier, simpler. But like I showed you before, you can just clamp on each section accordingly and it'll work. And to put some of this into practice, I'm gonna just, for example, take this vehicle out for a test drive. I'm only going to put 2 channels up just because you can understand what adding 2 more would do. So I'm just simply adding 2 channels to show simultaneous measurements at one time being graphed out. Just for hoping to capture anything, I've got one on one of the strut bolts up top, and another one on this engine mount on the passenger side. We'll run that inside with the scope and hope to get a good measurement of capturing some noise occurring and being graphed out. Okay, I've got my channel A on the strut. You can even see it picked up when I closed the door. I haven't started it yet. I've got all hooked up, ran in here. And then I totally forgot to turn on this one. That is on the engine mount. You definitely see the difference. Let me turn. Okay. And so there you go. You've got two quote-unquote microphones being graphed, run, scoped, and all simultaneous. We'll do some driving. Okay, so I'm going to start driving now. You can see how it picks up the engine for sure. That on the blue was when I hit a bump. Let me Okay, so I actually changed the location. Channel 1, I moved from there to the top, and then the other one, same place on driver's side. It's just the engine mount was just picking up too much vibration, and when there's not actual issue, I'm just showing you noise that it picks up. So this one obviously doesn't have anything wrong with suspension, no knocking noise, so I can't really display that portion properly, but I can display when it picks up some sort of noise. So I'm on top of both struts. There's some speed bumps here, and again, suspension's not wore out, but you'll be able to see when it's picking up the noise, and you can already tell some of the noises now. The speed bumps coming up. It went over it soft there. Here's another one. And let me stop. Okay, so it picked that one up also. Start again. Here's another bump. It picks that one up, and we've got one more coming up. I'll try to go a little bit faster maybe. There you go. So it will pick up noises, and taking multi measurements at one point in different places to try to isolate it works out good for that. Here's another a road that I know exactly where there's a bump, so I'll drive over and show you. I'm gonna hit it with the passenger side wheel, and it's coming up right there, which would be on the blue one. actually gonna come back around and hit it with the left driver's side and show you that it amplitude's higher on that red channel for that one. There. So again, like I said, you can use it to find obviously suspension noises. Imagine if I had a worn out bushing or ball joint and there was actual knocking loose play, it'll pick that up quickly and identify it easily. With this, right now this car has no worn out to the point where I'm knocking it loose or concerned, but when hitting bumps, it does create some play, some noise, and it's picking that up, and it's identifiable, and to the point where, like I said, you can pick it out left to right, because right now I've got both upper struts, so they're picking that noise up. But on this last one, the driver's side wheel was one that hit the bump harder, and you can see just the amplitude on it. So it will, from left to right, show you. So again, it's just it'll give you direction. Whenever you have 2, 3, 4, 5 microphone clamps hooked up to one side of the suspension, if you've got multiple arms and then one jumps out crazy big, then that's the one that's going to have the play. So I just wanted to show you that. I thought it was pretty cool when I found that I could do that and come into play and hook it up and show you guys and graph it out and save it. And again, I think the most important thing, other than capturing everything that's happening, is that you can do multiple ones simultaneously and capture everything that's happening at one time, not having to try to just use one channel and try to get lucky, pick the right microphone at the right time. So hope you found that interesting. I know it's cool for me. I just like that kind of stuff, and it definitely can be helpful in isolating noises. Now, another thing that I ended up finding out with these microphone deals is that along with being able to graph out and make the connections to graph out noises and stuff like that, they're actually sensitive enough to pick up vibrations. And that was another curiosity of mine, if it was able to do that. And my friend's shop, they had an F-150. It was already, it was a known problem that it was driveline related. They were already pretty much narrowed it down. But before they tore it apart, I told them to hold off. And being that we knew there was a problem, vibration in the, somewhere in the drive shaft, drive line region, I brought over the scope with the microphones, and we ended up putting, we used 3. We put one at the end of the transmission or transfer case, right at that output, as close as we can get it to, obviously you don't want to put it on something that's rotating, but as close as we could get it clamped on the case on the output portion. That one did have a center carrier bearing deal, clamped it on that, and then one on the input portion of the rear axle, as close as we can get it clamped on the case there. Which then you would be looking at like a front U-joint, rear U-joint, or the center bearing, And when we drove it, we were definitely able to see um, vibration, noise or whatever you want to call it, being graphed out. And one did have a significantly higher amplitude, and I believe on that one it was the 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 bearing, the carrier bearing in the middle, which it was cool to see, and it was good to know because it was a known bad vehicle, so you can control the situation when doing testing. That it was able to pick up vibrations as well. That amplitude was just crazy on one of the three. They ended up doing all the both U joints and the bearing and stuff like that. But um, I'm gonna try to duplicate a vibration and hopefully be able to graph it out to show you. I actually grabbed this from my same buddy's shop. They just grabbed wheel weights and actually was weighing it. So I'm gonna try in some way, somehow. Now I've been waiting to try to get a vehicle with a bent wheel or an axle or something like that, but I don't get too many of those service cars here. My buddy hasn't had any there as well, so about 520, so almost 530 grams of weight. I'm gonna try to make some sort of ordeal to get it on the wheel and see if we can pick up any of that so that I can show you. Alright, so here is a very non-balanced rim. I'm doing this here inside my shop in my garage. No one's here. I'm not driving this out on the street. I've got all those weights taped up numerous times with duct tape on the white, and then black, actually Flex Seal tape, and 3 different zip ties, and then along with being wrapped multiple times here within themselves, they're wrapped around multiple times around this spoke with each tape. And again, I'm inside my garage. I'm not putting anyone at any safety issue, harm's way, any of that. If they come out flying, I'm messing up my own stuff here in my own shop. Obviously, don't try this at home. I'm just doing this to show you, to create a big imbalance. Basically, I'm going bigger so it's easier to try to show, not go so much at so much speed or high rotating mass. Hopefully it's enough to create an imbalance early on. That's why I'm going so dramatically high on the weight, but they're taped up on there to create a bent wheel, rim, vibration, just so you get the idea of it. I got my clamp actually on the back of the brake caliper bolt there. Hopefully you can see it. And then obviously you gotta watch out, just like the old school or the regular way with the receiver. You gotta watch how you route these, make sure they're not in the way of anything. So cable's out of the way, clamp is on there good and tight, as close to the rim that I can get it, just to be able to show you for a good example. But now, and I've got the other one just hanging. And I believe that channel is the red one. So let's see. We'll take a look at the speed. And then there's the red. I don't know if you can see it's got a pretty bad shake. The steering wheel is shaking at about 25 miles an hour. It's pretty wicked. It's picking it up pretty good. You see the steering wheel. You definitely see it's gonna pick up vibrations as well. It's sensitive enough. I don't think I want to go any higher than what I did. It's pretty wicked imbalance there. Shaking the whole car actually. And no weights went flying anywhere, so no danger or anything. Probably not gonna push my luck. It's just trying to show you a good example of it being able to pick up imbalance as well. Does look like they survived. Didn't go flying like I said. So I guess that's it for this one. Like I said, I just wanted to do kind of like a demonstration of how I go about trying to find some noises now, because I like it better being able to graph it all out on the scope, multiple things at one time as well. And again, it could be something that you can also print out and show your customer, stuff like that. But also, like I said, you could go that far into being able to isolate things and save your butt and not waste time and money replacing things you don't need to, if you're, instead of playing the guessing game. And then for noises, and then also for vibrations. Imagine if we had a vibration going down, with like a wheel. You could put one on 4 corners, on each corner, and then drive it and see which corner's got the bigger vibration, noise, or amplitude, and then narrow it down that way. So it's just another kind of tech tip type tool info deal that I wanted to present. It's a cheap alternative. I think I got the clamps online, maybe $40. You can buy them separately. You don't have to buy the receiver with it. That's just what I ended up doing. And then just hook up your scope. Again, hope it helps some of you guys out there, and take it as a tip. Hopefully you like it, and then that's it for this one.